We did not blow up a balloon. We did travel a lot.
We met Felix's
Objectively correct.
friends
We did not blow.
and a goat that was quite interesting.
Also our friends.
Bergamot.
Felix has many friends, including some new friends who will be friends soon. Maybe.
Speaking of Felix, Felix called her their dragon friend via.
Yes, Felix did.
It managed to work, and if I recall correctly, the dragon's response was, "Go away, child. I don't wake up this early."
More or less verbatim.
But we had confirmation that, or at least Felix got confirmation that indeed our rusty iron friend is still alive, or their iron friend, not our friend yet, but hopefully.
Yeah,
Could
I
do.
don't think Felix mentioned that out loud. I'm trying to remember.
No,
They
no,
definitely
they
did it right
didn't.
away. Okay.
I think at
Although they
one
talked, later about going to check on him. That may have been later earlier, but
yeah, and there was you did catch sight of him in the far, far distance at one point for rolling very high on a perception check.
that's right, moving away. So as we moved towards the refuge.
And you all got to see the outskirts of the refuge, the broken valleys and ravines that are very richly vibrant with life, and grazing cattle that don't appear to be minded right now. And you made your way to the refuge itself to kind of get insight into why.
Yep, and all the gobos and orcs so far have been shit-talking Valor Company. This is the group that they talked about?
Yeah.
They don't look that big.
I thought it was less shit talking and more amazement.
Yeah, I think they were surprised.
I think they were scrutinizing us a little bit.
No, it is totally shit-talking, because we walked up and they're like, "These are the guys? These jamooks over here?"
Yeah. So there was one clarification. There are no goblins in this group, despite the artwork of the wards. Those just happen to be
that's right.
wards I could find.
It's just the orcs.
Just the orcs, of which you've noticed, and I'll elaborate a little more since you encountered them late last night. The majority of them tend to be a blue and gray mottled color. There also happens to be a smaller number that appear to be red and purple mottled, like darker colors. Among them, there are also some physical differences. They're largely very big, of a scale comparable to Jaeger sized. However, there are several that you've seen that seem closer to normal humanoid sizes, that are a little more slender, their muscles not as pronounced, that look a little less like their larger, more imposing relatives. Just wanted to make this physical distinction among some of the orcs that you've seen around here. But yeah, you guys made it into the refuge. Bergamot welcomed you. More specifically, Bergamot welcomed Felix. He just tolerated the rest of you. And you all made your way through town. Someone had reached out to Elaine, and he basically said, like, "Oh yeah, we're having a meeting. Come on up." And as he went through town, you saw that the place was in pretty good condition, but a number of doors appears to have been broken into. There's a number of refugers. I still haven't figured out a collective noun for the people who live here. I'm not going to call them Fugees. Many of whom are dressed in green or wear notable green cloaks similar to Felix's. They all seem to be okay. A little perturbed by their new friends, question mark, who also seem to be spread out at strategic points throughout the town. As you guys got close to the central meeting spot of the town, up the hill in this little crevice in the mountainside, you ran into Felix's old friends. A small collection of children of the refuge who were very excited to see Felix, who set aside some of their whatever was on their minds to pretty much just sweep Felix up into their midst and get excited about having him back.
Point of order that at least some of Felix's friends should be approximately Felix's age. Like Juniper is young,
Yes.
but Petal and Brooke should be 19-ish because Felix is an adult, just barely. But
Yep. Petal and Brooke are the oldest of the group.
Okay.
Then comes Sassafras, and Juniper was the youngest. Yeah,
Should write this down.
if you like. You also saw some smelly armored individuals guarding the way into the meeting place. And upon entering this meeting ground, you saw quite a collection of figures ahead of you, including some of your old friends, 2 sages and a monk, as well as a draft horse who seemed somewhat out of place amongst all the wargs and orcs and esteemed company.
I think we pegged it immediately that was Kenta.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Oh yeah, immediately. Among the orc side of this delegation, you see one very large, or probably the largest of the tribe you've seen so far, who's nonetheless kind of standing in a non-threatening posture, just kind of standing with his thumbs tucked into his wide belt, covered in leathers and furs with a long braided beard. Standing at his right is a younger orc male of the red and purple variety, with long braided hair pulled back. And standing across from them is a group of folk from the refuge. And as we start to get into game, I will specify for Felix's benefits, as well as everyone who will be introduced to them shortly. The notable individuals here are the ones right in the center. Petal's mother is there. Let me scroll to my list.
V?
am I hallucinating that we had name tags with? Oh, it's when you hover over
Yeah.
them, you get names up to them. Okay, fabulous.
Oh, that makes it so much easier. Thank you, Rob.
Word. I'm gonna do the same for Varric, Taro, and the other guy.
Thank you.
Thank you, super helpful.
The other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Shepherd Vi, Petal's mother. There is Skywarden Cypress, who is Juniper and Sassafras's mother, a small gnome at the back of the party, with short hair and more utilitarian leathers she's wearing, with her arms folded over her chest. You see a beardless dwarf standing among them,
What?
with short hair and kind of gray laced into his blonde hair, but his features are, while a little wrinkled, seem fairly jolly, which seems a little out of place. Felix, you recognize Keeper Copper. And a wizened old dragonborn with a large staff that seems to be made of twin pieces of wood just kind of entwined together, reaching up to a green aether stone at the top. And as you all enter and kind of make yourselves known and kind of take stock of the situation, the Dragonborn looks away from the esteemed guests and lifts his head on his long neck and kind of raises his arms. Felix! Felix, my boy! Felix, you're back! And he starts hobbling over to you, Felix.
Yeah, Felix will zip over and pounce
Hi,
up,
Lee, coming through. Excuse me.
make a round of introductions.
Oh.
I can't. Oh, there's Felix. Oh, there's so many people around. Yeah. So so Felix will just sort of babble a round of introductions to sort of starting in approximately close order. This is Say, and this is Kanane, and this is we'll try to imitate Klinkle's. Does Klinkle is a? Would Klinkle have introduced herself? I guess I've been assuming that the name is actually the sound of shattered glass. Has Klinkle ever actually introduced herself as that?
It's not breaking glass. It's like that noise when you shuffle it around.
Okay, Felix will imitate that as best they can, and Emmett, this is Emmett right here, and Taliesin's over there, and Alistair, and
So
that's
Felix,
not
as
that's
you're
not one of
rambling
ours.
through
That's
these
Jaeger. That's Jaeger though.
As you're rambling through these introductions, Shepard Drummond is like patting your shoulders and looking you off and speaking as you're speaking. Are you okay?
I just keep
You look
going.
rather thin. Have you had breakfast yet?
I always look like that, but more breakfast is always good.
I can
who's
make
that?
some waffles for everyone.
Is pointing past
It's a
Say
waffles
at.
kind of day.
There are
End of that
days that
one.
aren't waffle days?
Say again?
There are days that aren't waffle days?
And Felix said, "Who's that?" and pointed past Say at those people who were standing quite close to us, who I don't recognize.
For some reason,
So-
it won't let me deselect Taliesin, just as an FYI.
Have you targeted him?
Try go to an empty spot on the map and just draw like click and drag a square.
Okay.
See if that'll let you deselect.
There we go.
All right, there we go. Right, these three individuals, to highlight their appearance as Say walks among them. One is a very disheveled looking redhead. Looks like a fairly young man with a large orange-brown fur-lined coat. He's holding onto a wooden staff that seems to halfway up split into two sides that twist around each other, and at the very top seem to spread apart into almost like a tuning fork design. He wears a pair of half-moon spectacles and seems delighted that everyone is here. Standing just behind him is a dark elf with short white hair, dark-skinned, who seems to have an air of gravitas and seriousness about him. Dressed in, they actually look more like fine farmer's clothes than what you might expect a drow to wear. And standing beside him is another drow, a woman with similar features, so you can immediately tell that they are twins, who is nonetheless torn the sleeves off of her tunic, which is also fur-lined along the collar and around the base, who's standing with her arms folded across her chest, looking vaguely annoyed at the world in general.
Right, this is Elaine, this is Taro, and this is Vera. They're old friends. This is Felix, new friend.
One can never have too many good new friends. It is a pleasure to meet you. Yes, I remember speaking to you. It is always a pleasure to put a face to the voice. And he'll extend like one hand to shake.
Felix is just looking between Elaine and Alistair, trying to gauge any resemblance while grasping Alistair's hand with probably both of theirs and shaking with enthusiasm.
So, at first glance, they're both redheads. Elaine seems very young. maybe only a couple years older than Alistair, but there seems to be a different aura about him. There's a passing resemblance, but nothing quite discernible. Like they could be cousins, maybe.
Can I roll my extremely good perception and attempt to discern?
Sure.
Uh, 22.
22.
Yep.
Yeah, there is a slight resemblance, but I would say that something is kind of something's itching at your mind. Like you've got a feeling that something isn't quite right. Not nefarious, but something isn't quite right about Elaine.
I think at what time it is and what I have to do, and that everybody else probably wants to talk to their friends. Felix is going to will sort of enthusiastically say hello and express delight in meeting these new people, and then we'll sort of redirect their attention to trying to ponder and figure out that thing while I get my work laptop booted up. So I will be in primarily listen mode for the next hour. I can do like a thing here and there, but I have to wait for people to like redirect at a moment's notice.
So, as
everyone's interested in the horse,
Konane and Jaeger immediately go over to the draft horse and start rubbing him and patting him, and he starts just kind of headbutting, nosing at Jaeger and Konane, getting their sense. Say, as you introduce them, Vera kind of looks over at them, paying attention to the draft horse, and she just kind of shakes her head a little bit. I am honestly not sure what I am more surprised at. That the draft horse made it this far, or that it has. She says, kind of inclining her head towards Elaine.
Honestly, I'd put my money on Baublschlankens before I put my money on Elaine.
Taro kind of speaks up in that somber manner of his. I would not take that bet. I believe the horse has more sense than my esteemed colleague.
Or at least a better sense of self-preservation.
Elaine sneezes and just looks around. What was that?
I was saying that Baublschlankens had more sense of self-preservation than you do.
Oh, yes, he does. Vera just rolls her eyes and looks over at you. Well, it seems there's something different about you, High Elf. Ah, I've got it. You've got a new haircut. I'm going to be switching between German and French accents this entire game. I have way too many characters with too many distinct accents in this scene, and it's going to drive me bonkers.
Do what you can.
A lot of new clothes and not a lot of sleep.
She'll reach over and kind of pluck the mantle of your coat and squint at it. Is this what I think it is?
It very much is.
Well done. I like this style.
I'll have to show you what it does later.
She smirks a little bit, and for a moment there's a fierce gleam that enters her gaze. Oh, I remember what he does. Hopefully you received more use of it than Breeza did.
Well, she only had it for a few minutes.
You can tell without an insight check that Vera is still feeling very proud of herself at blasting the Drow priestess off the wall.
But I do try to stay stuck to the wall once I'm on it. But you can try later.
A sure sign of success.
Felix has started a new thing where we all now wrestle for dinner. It's been amusing.
Oh, I didn't start that. I think somebody else started it. I just escalated it, I think.
Taro kind of clears his throat a little bit. I believe I will be taking dinner separately then.
Taliesin's got berries. No wrestling needed.
We have a quiet war between berries and actual food.
The berries are
actual
very
food.
unusual, Felix says with great enthusiasm.
Do they go good with waffles?
Does anything go good
Dragonborn
with
kind of
waffles?
like inserts himself.
I think they can be waffles.
I can make them taste any way you want, but you will want to stop eating the waffles once you have the berries. So, not necessarily good with waffles unless it's your last bite of waffle.
Anything that makes you not want to eat more waffles is certainly not fit for my breakfast table. Are you all hungry? Have you had breakfast yet?
It's
You're all so thin. Come, let me go make something. As he starts to kind of head off, the keeper clears his throat. Master Shepherd Drummond, we were kind of in the middle of discussing things with our new friends here. What? Oh, right. After breakfast. Pardon me. The riders are into the building over here. Elaine kind of raises a hand to massage one of his temples. The large orc watches him go in confusion.
Alistair kind of smacks his lips a little bit. So, is that the
The good Shepherd Drummond.
Drummond? Yes, I think Felix told us about him.
The master of this place, a very, very accommodating host. But I don't quite think he understands the situation that his refuge finds itself in.
I think he just wants waffles. He usually does.
What exactly is that situation? We heard a little bit over the amulet, but maybe while we wait for waffles, that somebody could fill us in on just what's going on.
The travelers, I'm going to take that, thank you, Felix, head over to join the group as Copper the dwarf speaks up. Well, you have to forgive Master Drummond. This is a new situation for us all to be in right now. He smiles at you, Felix, reaches over, just kind of pats your shoulder in appreciation at seeing you safe and sound. The refuge was raided about a week or so ago, and then it was raided again, and then our friends here showed up, offering some assistance in helping to protect the refuge from further raids. Taro turns and motions to the two orcs. Chief Drogon of the Windrunners, and his, I believe the word he used was bondsman Ashad. Elaine clears his voice. Lord Drogon, this is the group I was telling you about. I faded into, I forgot the elven culture already. Marini there for a second. And the orcs kind of walk over, looking you all over, and the large one he addressed as Drogon nods his head respectfully. This is Valor Company, he says in common.
Oh,
I bow.
Alistair's going to do the same. Caught off guard at the common.
Saya's not bowing. She was gonna arch an eyebrow at those that are.
No, when I say bow, I mean that kind of a curtsy bow, not like a "Oh, Your Highness" bow. Like the nodding your head forward slowly and coming back up.
Like a hat tip.
Tilt.
Slight bob of shoulders.
A gin nod.
Just a tilt forward with an acknowledge and then tilt back.
Elaine nods. Well, since it seems like talks with the Good Shepherd have come to a momentary pause, perhaps you could share some of the information with Vela Company that you were sharing with the travelers, yes? And Drogon nods once more. Hobgoblins. They raid, they collect things that they want or desire, and they will keep coming back unless they are stopped. We stop them on the way here. But if word spreads among the camps in the valley, there may be more returning in the future. Copper clears his throat and kind of looks up and up at the orc before looking back at all of you. They've made off with I forgot his accent already. On too many accents. They took off with several of our people, but we've been assured that these hobgoblins, they don't kill prisoners. They draft them. They take them as servants of some kind. Drogon nods. They will be safe for now.
What do they typically do with their servants? Are we talking hard labor? Scrubbing floors? Mining?
Drogon just nods.
Okay.
They find a use for them based on the talents of those they take. If they are strong, then they will mine. If they know magic, they will be sent to the magic users. If they are smart, they will be sent for special tasks. The hobgoblins do not like to waste resources.
Glance at Taliesin. Sounds like they're the Goliaths, but a lot more efficient.
How do they know how to get here?
Copper speaks up to answer that one. Well, they came across one of our ranger parties in the lowlands and, just backtrack them from there. And at this point, V. Petal's mother speaks up. They found Edwin and his party, and they took him prisoner. And Felix, you know Edwin is her husband, Petal's father. At least we know they are okay based on what was shared with us. When these visitors brought back Vespa. You recall from last game it was mentioned that a Air Genasi Vespa had been recovered from the Hobgoblin camp that the orcs and your companions raided the previous day.
Right, so how many prisoners are we looking for?
Well, if everything Vespa told us is correct, it looks like 6 of us were taken into the valley, Copper says. It looks like they took... And he pauses and looks at Felix and looks at the rest of you, knowing that the names will mean more to Felix. They took our blacksmith, Vada, our mason, Rockwell, and Felix recognizes Rockwell as Brooke's father. Cypress steps forward. Those strangers made up with my husband, too. Oh, Dedrala, the cook. Copper continues. And Ranger Edwin. Several of them had stayed in town to try and distract the raiders, while the rest of us went to the caverns to hole up. They bought time for everyone to get safe.
Alistair rubs his chin a little bit.
Alright, seems like some reconnaissance is in order.
Right, and Chief Drogon, was it? You said the hobgoblins, they split people up based on what they do, what they're good at. I don't imagine they're all together in one place. Do we have any idea where these hobgoblins make their camps?
One moment, I'm going to post a list in chat for y'all.
Oh.
Just from the names.
There we go. In the OOC chat, in the game, I listed the missing travelers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
All right, and Alistair, what was your question?
If we know where any of these hobgoblin camps might be.
Drogon nods. There are small encampments throughout the valley, but my band traveled through several of the larger locations when we first came to your world. Elaine pipes up. I believe if we have a map of the valley, we might be able to notate some things.
Say?
I will pull out my map. Should we go inside where we can maybe sit down at a table and look things over?
I think that would be a good idea, Copper speaks up. Shepherd Drummond does get a little put out if no one has his waffles.
Alright, so War Council and waffles. Sounds like a good way to start the morning.
As the party turns to enter the building, you hear the beating of bergamot on top of the roof of the building, just bleeding to no purpose whatsoever, as you all head inside to enjoy some waffles.
Oh, he gets around, doesn't he?
Mostly up.
Mostly up. You suppose goats ever get afraid of heights? Is that a thing?
I feel like
Maybe
that would
that.
be like
Maybe,
Oh, go ahead.
maybe sometimes, but not that one.
I feel like that'd be like a fish being afraid of water.
Yeah. Very counterintuitive. But
Do you think that
stranger
happens?
things.
No.
Involved.
If only I was a goat.
I have never known a goat to be afraid of anything. Elaine kind of murmurs under his breath as you all head inside.
Couldn't you make yourself a goat if you wanted to be a goat? To Konane. Not even with, and Felix, who doesn't know polymorph but certainly seen you cast it, is going to try to like imitate the. Is it imitate however you cast polymorph, whatever components it has.
Maybe, but not quite the same.
Felix nods understanding.
Polymorph's more like changing your clothes, where your clothes are what you look like.
So you can be a goat, but you don't really know what it's like to be a goat, for real.
Mostly.
That's a philosophical question that I'm not down for today.
Maybe after waffles.
Possibly
Imagine
after
if
waffles.
stuff like walking on 4 feet.
Waffles are thinking food.
Well,
It is like being a goat,
but only for an hour. And if you're smart enough at if the creature is smart enough that you're turned into, then you're aware enough to know that you're not always going to be a goat. But other dumber creatures like insects, you could turn someone into that, and they could tell who was friend or foe, and other than that, they'd end up being a lot like them, just mindlessly wandering.
As we found out.
Oh yeah.
In the Matthias throne room.
Yes,
that was quite interesting.
Good choice on
Good
sure
choice on the
was,
spider.
As you banter and enter the room, you find this building seems to be almost like a community hall of sorts. It's large and open, with long benches, fireplaces, and fire pits. It definitely seems like this is an area where the village would often gather for meetings or, well, based on the size of the kitchen that you can kind of see through an opening, pretty much any event would largely take place either in the meeting area outside and in this adjoining room. Felix, you've actually slept in some of the rooms on the second floor of this building, and it very much is just kind of a communal space for everyone. Drummond lives in the bottom half of this room, kind of overlooking the village below. But you can hear him humming in the kitchen and clattering some pots and pans as he moves around, and V and Cypress kind of sigh to themselves and head over into the kitchen to speak with the shepherd and help him prepare breakfast. As everyone else kind of settles down at one of the tables, Say, you present your map?
Yeah.
Okay.
Felix will move around to look over, not be in the way of the map of the view, but looking over people's shoulders. Assuming they can find someone shorter than them to stand behind.
This is the map that...
That's
Oh. If this is the map that Say made, I think at least 3 of the cities are misspelled.
Felix assumes it's some other language.
Here we go.
Yeah, you
I'm
can
pretty
make.
sure Klinkle may or may not have a map that is a copy of something. Or did we?
We gave that away.
Yeah, okay. I would imagine Klinkle would try to eventually make another copy because copies of maps are always good.
So as you provide this map, Say, Drogon looks very interested. He looks over the map and kind of surprisingly gently runs a finger along the mountains, and it looks like this is the first time he's really seen something like this before. And then he looks puzzled for a second. I know of these things. Do you know where we are right now?
Yeah, I'll make a mark. Or at least point it out.
And he nods gratefully as he starts to kind of look over the map and move his fingers around and nod. There are several outposts in the valley that serve different purposes for the army. Here at the base of the mountains there is a mine. And now I gotta make sure I'm on the right layer to grab some things. This is where they pull the stones from the earth to build their other outposts in the valley. Here, and he moves his finger to a spot a little northern. This is where we came into this place. I believe that is how we are to get back home, eventually. There is a large outpost here. I believe that is the center of the Hobgoblins' command. I believe they keep all of their important prisoners and allies there. And then he moves his finger over towards the bay. Here is where they build the ships that took my tribe to the other land. When we first left, they were still constructing it, but by now they may have had time to finish building.
If we could retake as many of these assets as possible with minimal damage, they could be retrofitted to advance our own cause.
The orc who's been quiet so far, the one that was introduced as a Shad, leans forward. That may be difficult. These places are heavily guarded. There's and he looks to Drogon, and Drogon nods at him, and he looks back at the map. Here, he taps on the location, the entryway, as it is marked on the map. Here there are priests of the Bad Moon tribe. They treat with demons and ensure the portal is safe for people moving back and forth between our worlds. The mine is the place of the small folk, the Duergar, Drogon provides. The Duergar. They are in command there. Then there is the Hobgoblin command and the small outposts in the forests that we know are there but are not large enough to be called settlements. Elaine leans over and looks over the map. Claiming them might be difficult, but disrupting them. A small band of very determined individuals could do a lot of damage by some well-placed application of magic and mind.
And violence.
That too. But I think that is best left to the people. He just kind of gestures towards Jaeger and Drogon. Best suited for that sort of thing.
No, I'm slightly offended that you just didn't include me in the and violence part, but okay.
Yes, say it's incredibly violent. It's like an art form.
To be honest, I am somewhat offended myself. Verret chimes in. Elaine looks appropriately, what's the word? Chastised. Ah, true. I stand corrected, and my apologies to all of you.
Is there anything right here?
You point
and I
toward the
I
weird
pointed.
I
cloud
point at
movement.
I point to the center of the weird cloud movement.
You see Ashad and Drogon exchange a look, and Drogon nods slowly. That is a dark place. We do not know what is there, but the clouds are always dark. And there has been rumors that many of the magic wielders go there.
I look over at
Alistair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You think they need magic wielders to run things?
I imagine it'd be downright integral to their operation.
And you think that the device that you were describing might require some people to fuel it?
He rubs his chin.
What kind of device? Taro speaks up.
Oh, well, it's kind of just a theory we're running on, but we believe there might be an Eldritch engine in play. A device
Taro
that's...
nods slowly, immediately grasping what you're suggesting.
They need something very potent to disable communications and teleportation globally. Hiding it under a swirling cloud of darkness would make perfect sense. Keep it concealed, keep anyone from hiding it. And sending magic users there to maintain it or to fuel it. Yeah, it's a possibility.
I think communication would be a high priority. We can. Everything else is great and definitely want to retake, destroy, whatever, but getting communication back would be key to those efforts.
Speaking of communication, do you? I look at Drogon and Ashad. Do you know if they have methods to speak to other outposts quickly, or is it only by messenger?
I do not know how they do it, but they are able to communicate with one another across vast distances. When my tribe was sent to the place you call Astoria, the tribe in charge there was able to receive orders from the valley and reports back things that disappointed them.
Did you happen to see how they got the messages? Was it a device? Something they held to their ear and I make like a gesture?
Drogon shakes his head. My tribe was sent out as scouts and warriors to chase down those who ran.
God.
As he says that, you see Ashad gets visibly kind of angry.
Kind of glance back toward Taliesin. It could very well be that the engine is allowing only certain people to cast magic. There might be some kind of filter, perhaps.
Perhaps. Would I be able to give a decently accurate description of the general looking motherfucker that had called off the wargs that we were fighting at the ranch?
Oh yeah. You mean the one that saluted you?
Yes.
That was Drogon.
Oh, that was Drogon?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
You remember at the ranch, while the other orcs had raided, Drogon had stayed near the tree line and watched from a distance. And as you basically won the battle, he was the one that called off the others from committing and retreated back into the forest. The ones that actually attacked the farmhouse were a different tribe of orcs.
Okay. I'll nod. I'll nod to him about his thing. Well, I'm glad to see that you've made it so far.
When you say that, Ashad kind of speaks up, still looking angry. Despite all the dishonor they do us. Drogon just kind of raises one hand and idly just kind of makes a dismissive gesture, and Ashad calms down. Or at least stops talking. The road here has been long, but we cannot serve the invaders anymore.
Beg your pardon, but what?
Drogon huffs a little bit. There. It is our way to follow the strong, but these invaders, the ones who seized control of our world and killed our gods, they have no honor. They send us out against, and he waves his hand kind of dismissively. They send us against the defenseless and those who cannot fight and tell us to fight them. They treat us like chattel to feed their war machines. The tribes have long chafed under their rule, but there is little we can do. But when I saw the resistance in the land Astoria, when they tried to force us to do things that would further dishonor us, I knew it was time to rekindle our faith in our gods and find a new path. To us, the invaders are a more honorable challenge than the ones they sick us upon.
Can I roll insight?
Sure. Specifically on Drogon?
Drogon, yeah. Actually, you know what? I want to see what Ashad is going. I know he's angry. I want to see if there's anything that I can read off of his face, off of his mannerisms.
Okay.
That's a low roll. 13.
13. With a 13, you can tell that while Drogon is speaking calmly and appears calm, Ashad is wearing his emotions on his sleeve, so to speak. Ashad seems more worked up, more angry, more annoyed, but you can't quite tell the direction it's aimed in.
Right, so the rough plan is to hit this area, hit it hard, and retake it so we can hopefully get communications back up again?
That does make a lot of sense.
I think you forgot freeing the prisoners. I know that's what you meant too, but I think you forgot to say that up out loud, so we should just make sure everyone knows.
The prisoners are held in a different area, and I'll point to the prison. Assuming they're even there, they're probably both at the shipyard and the mine.
If we can get relatively close, I can check from outside, and then we'll know for sure.
I also can't help but wonder, if the hobgoblins have their command posts in the middle of the Vale, they might have information about the darkened area.
My concern is if we aim for the prison first, then we will inevitably tip them off, and the darkened area will become even harder to take.
Yes, that I unfortunately agree with. And the other issue is the portal in and out from this world. As I look over to Drogon and Mashad, there are those that wish to go back, and I would gladly help, but that also means that while that stays open, there are those coming through to reinforce. And this is not wise.
Drogon grunts a little bit at your comment as Vera is also leaning forward over the map. Drogon speaks up. We will find our way back home eventually, but we will not leave until the rest of our tribe joins us. We left some behind in the land of Astoria to protect those in the Greenlands. Elaine clears his throat and speaks up. Specifically the Green Vale. After Chief Drogon was kind enough to help me escape Donald's Crossing, we found his tribe had been sentenced to patrol and guard the farms in the southern lands of Astoria. Half of his tribe was left behind to ensure that the people there don't fall under any harm from the forces at Donald's Crossing. Vera then speaks up. There is a way you could turn their security against them. If you know they will likely send investigators and reinforcements to wherever there happens to be an attack, you could lead them away from the targets you really want to hit.
Certainly a thought. If we could take the command in prison, maybe they'll send reinforcements there. And it shouldn't take too many. I mean, if it's a prison, it shouldn't take too many people to hold against a siege.
I would like to verify out of character. Am I understanding correctly that we are not being steered into a situation where if we choose the wrong thing, then the prisoners are murdered or otherwise lost?
No.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
No, it's a good question to ask. As in character, as Drogon point out, the hobgoblins, though they have raided the refuge, they do not treat. They make use of everyone they take. They do not kill prisoners. They do not kill if they can afford it. They would rather capture them and put them to work.
They're industrious.
Thank you.
Or lazy on a military level. Scavengers, they build their culture off the backs of other people's hard work.
And the balloons, the giant floating vessels that could explode, Do they go to that shipyard, or do they land somewhere else?
Drogon leans back, and Ashad's the simmering anger that Ashad has felt emerges in a gruff laugh. The goblin balloons. The small folk send them up and down, but there is not a place they gather. There are many scattered throughout the Vale, but with the trees, Nashad points at all the forest markings on the map. The trees make it hard for them to get a good look at whoever is traveling on the ground.
Are there many foot soldiers patrolling in the woods?
Drogon shrugs a little. It is difficult to tell. It has been some time since I was last here in the valley, but I recall that there were patrols. There were supplies being run from one location to another. There were hobgoblin patrols keeping an eye on things. Occasional machines built by the goblin kind that's moved back and forth. And some of the orc tribes who stayed behind may also be in the Vale.
Those orcs, are they of your tribe or the others?
Drogon shakes his head. My tribe, the Windrunners, are split between those here and those in the Green Vale. The ones I know for certain that are here, and he points at the entryway, the Bad Moons. They are mystics and shamans and speak to demons. They are led by a warlock named Zarak. The gateway is his charge.
Alistair rubs his chin. Alright. It seems no matter where we go first, it's going to kick everything off.
I look over at Felix, and then over at Drummond, and then over to Copper.
So Drummond has been in the back for this conversation, but Copper has been listening very attentively.
So who is Ferrovax more likely to listen to then?
Copper leans back, blinking a little wide-eyed.
Oh, no one.
I beg your pardon? Who is Ferrovax? That name sounds imposing.
Your dragon friend.
Oh, he's his own dragon. He's not ours.
You have a dragon?
He listens to himself.
Does anyone have a dragon? I mean, really?
Well, I meant dragon friend, and I knew Felix.
Copper is like shaking his head like, no, we do not own the dragon, and then it's not Felix like, yes, Ferrovax is his own.
I'm fine with him being his own thing. It's more of if you bring peace to him, and as a kind of gentle peace offering, and he is happy with this arrangement. Well, do you think it might be possible to convince him to make one assisting move attacking one spot for us?
You're friends with the dragon?
Felix sort of shrugs nonchalant. He hasn't eaten me. We said sometimes. But I don't think he would. That seems like a lot of work.
It would probably be more work for him if the hobgoblins realized he was up there and decided to come out.
I don't think he'd be concerned about that. He's very large.
There'd be dinner, if they tried.
Felix nods and points at Taliesin.
Copper is also nodding vehemently.
But
Quick meta question.
Yep.
Did we actually see the thing in here, or?
Oh no, you've heard rumors of a dragon in Kier, but you haven't seen anything out there.
It's been a while.
Yep.
Because there's also, and I will point out, there's rumors that the hobgoblins also have a dragon on their side.
Yeah, that could be a problem for your friend.
Oh, I don't think he'd like that.
Yeah. If Kalama
Well,
decided to come
we should
here.
probably inform him of the information of these developments.
Yeah, is he a status quo kind of guy? Likes things staying the same. Enjoys
I
a
don't-
comfortable lifestyle.
No, he likes his cave. He likes eating sheep.
Well, there was that one time the Rock tried to move in on his territory.
Oh, how did that go?
Depends whose side. Who do you mean?
Well,
It went fine for
is still
Fairfax.
here.
And the Rook?
Not here.
Right. Gosh, this is a really dumb thing to say. I'm curious if he has any strong opinions about the swirling red clouds in the distance, or if he even has any idea just what's happening in his valley.
We could ask after lunch. I don't know what time he gets up, but before it was too early.
Oh, probably. Yeah, lunchtime is about a couple just before lunch, maybe.
Alistair
Did all-
apprehensively nods.
Did all the sheep and goats run away? Not all. I saw Bergamat, but are there enough that we could have one? Not for us, for Fairfax.
Oh, certainly. The refuge has been in a bit of a shambles. We haven't had a chance to bring in the herds down below, but we do have plenty of stockpiles, and bringing in the herds will give some of the shepherds something to do. We can certainly arrange an offering.
We could go visit. I promised Alistair anyway.
Alistair, how long would you say it would take to make that saddle?
You want to saddle the dragon?
What? No,
No, not the dragon.
No, not the
Me.
dragon.
We're
Me.
not gonna
Just
talk about it.
we're not going to talk about it. But
You
It's all right. They don't
you-
judge.
Everyone started speaking at once.
I don't know, maybe 8 to 16 hours of solid work, I think. Let's see if I can find someone who can handle a leatherworking kit.
Jaeger tentatively raises his hand.
Less if the doctor helps.
I would like to insight check whether Say can sit still or approximately still for whatever that time is. I'm guidancing myself, even though I don't think I'm going to need it.
Roll that insight.
Yeah,
check,
roll an
right?
insight check.
Um,
Because there is a thing to discover.
as this discussion is actually happening, Vera just leans over to you, Say, kind of like eyes on Elaine. I cannot tell if the idea of working with the dragon excites him or terrifies him.
Scared and horny, probably.
Vera actually glances at Say, brows raise, and then smirks out a laughter. All right, 23 insight on Say.
I'll send you a whisper.
Delightful.
Go for it.
I will have to actually ask the DM how long it would take to make an exotic saddle that would change shape with the druid who's wearing it.
Oh boy.
I know we talked about it, and I know we were talking about using stone shape for it, which Taliesin does have prepared today.
It would take several hours. You are in a location where you could speak to someone about having a place to work. So off the top of my head, I want to say at the very least it would be the rest of the day, but we would have to crunch some numbers.
Okay. If it helps, would a lower level spell help? Would enlarge, reduce be viable to make a, I guess, common, uncommon magic item?
I think it would be. It would work. Like I said, the exact amount of time is hard to calculate on the fly, but the spell would definitely be useful in this situation.
Got it. Okay. If we call for a break, I'll see if we can crunch the numbers.
Yeah.
Exotic saddle. It's very exotic. It's spicy.
Somewhat crunchy if you use stone shape.
Well, that was the original. Originally there was. I don't know if it was stone shape. We originally had it set up so we were going to use clay. I think that was the reagent for stone shape. Let me double check.
Yeah, that was. I remember that was back when you were on the tree boat, crossing the lake. You probably, in this current location, you have access to better supplies, so I would say more options have opened up to you.
Yeah. I know that the reason behind the spell was because it would be able to make the shape that we needed and make it so that it could shift back and forth with the material. So.
Yes.
So I'll with tentative answers, I'll say I can become a giant eagle for half a day's travel, just myself. So I could definitely carry things towards Fairfax, and if the saddle gets made and we wait for that, I'd be able to carry 2 people on my back.
At the risk of dissuading you from this fantastic plan, if he destroyed a rock for being in his territory, what do you think he'll do before a giant eagle?
Felix is nodding and points at Say.
I point at Felix. If we have a herald saying, "Hey, I'm flying in on a giant eagle friend, is bringing you some sheep. Please don't eat us."
Generally speaking, it definitely serves to be announced when approaching a dragon. Taro speaks up.
I do appreciate your faith in me. I just will repeat that I don't know him that well. He is a dragon. Also, sometimes it's nice to walk places.
I prefer walking. I vote for walking.
I prefer not to spend an entire day walking that way if we're wanting to make faster movements and plan things.
I prefer to not fight a dragon.
Felix nods. You could stay here and work in the saddle, and then Alistair has to come with us.
Yeah, Alistair would be working on the saddle, and then yeah.
You could be a very large goat, and Alistair could work on the saddle while we walk through the mountains.
Well, technically, I've worked on. I've worked bull riding before.
Who's ready for waffles? As Drummond comes out with a plate full of waffles.
Yes, brain food.
Vi and Cypress soon follow, bringing out other plates of waffles with the assurance that they're working on more, since this is a very large company. Bringing out some powdered sugar, some maple syrup, just some general breakfast offering, some goat's milk.
They have milk?
They have milk.
This place rules.
Goat's milk.
Whatever, it's just a little grassy.
You can see that Drogon and Ashad are confused by the sight of the pancakes.
Why?
Pancakes,
Because they're waffles?
They do not know what to make of this strange food.
Hopefully they know what to do with it.
They are watching everyone else to see what they're doing.
Does Kanani even know what waffles are? She must have at least seen waffles by now.
I imagine that Kanani could, like, parse through what a waffle is by context clues.
I imagine they've had pancakes of some various kinds of pancakes in Otori. The waffles require a special kind of iron, which might not be too
above
common.
Her station.
yeah, above their station. Yeah, waffles feels like a southerner kind of thing. Feels like a Leorin thing, really.
Leorin definitely invented waffles. Or a Renoan.
Yes.
They Leorins created the Belgian waffles, and Renoans created a very flat kind of large waffle. They created savory waffles. I don't know.
The gnomes decided to curl them and put ice cream in them.
The gnomes just piled on all kinds of jams and peanut butter, and
sprinkles.
The Astorians were just happy to import it.
With Drogon and Ashad just watching other people eat, I'll look up, are you not hungry? And, oh wait, look at now he's back. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I tried to press a button, but Cat was in the way.
So yeah, look at Drogon and Ashad, noticing they're not eating. Are you not hungry?
Ashad pokes at the waffle with a fork and lifts the whole thing up. You eat this, but there is no meat.
Have you had berries before?
Don't give him a meat berry. They're our allies at the moment.
They want meat.
No one wants your meat berries, Taliesin.
Elaine, who's chewing a mouthful of waffle. I agree. Don't make enemies over meat waffles. Berries. Meat berries. These are good.
Wait, so do they not have bread where you're from?
Drogon nods a little bit. Some of the villages make bread, yes. We travel with our herds.
Waffles are like an aggressively sweet bread with little pockets in it for more toppings.
Ashad takes a bite of the waffle skeptically, and then his face slowly transforms into one of delight. He looks to he and Drogon exchange a look, and Ashad nods vigorously, and then looks to basically dumps a lot of maple syrup on it because he saw other people doing it, and he's off to the races. Drogon is more measured in his response, but seems pleased by the waffles.
Twinkle will point out to that that syrup's very, very sweet. That's going to be very sweet.
In spite of the warning, Ashad does not seem bothered.
Well, it's one of those things, like, it's more of a, like, hey, heads up. Not that I'm going to stop you, but, like, don't be surprised if, like, this makes you feel like your teeth are going to rot out.
I have come to the realization that most Leorin's sort of breakfast is mostly sweet.
It really
well,
is.
No, it's not always sweet. It's also fried.
There's also lots of eggs and sausages and bacon.
Eggs, sausage, there's bangers, crispy fried potatoes, meal bread.
Those are delicious.
Oh yeah.
Annie just squints.
Remember there's blood pudding.
There's oatmeal too, if that is the kind of thing you enjoy.
Oatmeal's good. Oatmeal's a good staple. It's good brain food.
It's kind of sad.
It's like everything else, it's what you make out of it.
It just needs a little bit of brown sugar and syrup, and it's fine. It's a bit
Or a
of
little bit of honey.
Yeah, it's
honey is
not
very good.
it's not good on its own, therefore it is bad.
I imagine that if you made it with like apple cider instead of water, it'd be amazing.
Vera is looking between Elaine and Alistair, and her brow is slowly knitting.
I kind of glance in Vera's direction. Don't tell me you haven't had oatmeal either.
I have had oatmeal. It is not made the same way as the Overlanders make it, though. Taro chimes in. More spiders.
Spiders in the oatmeal? Oh, that's delightful.
Insight check.
Go for it.
Alistair's shivering.
I want to see if she's fucking with us.
It was actually Taro who spoke up.
I
Still
both
worth
of
the
them.
check.
Sure,
13. Mediocre.
13.
Yeah.
He's hard to read. He's got a very straight face.
What? Is that in OOC? Put it in.
In Toy, we eat bugs on skewers.
Are they
I've
very
never
big bugs
had
or very small
grubs before.
skewers?
Grubs. Grubs are to be pulled out of your garden, not to be eaten.
They are very high in protein.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Bugs are to be left where they are and 18 feet away from me at all times, thank you.
Well, ever since we went through those ruins, those were the biggest beetles I've seen by a decent amount. But let's just say the ones that are fist size aren't small either.
What do they taste like?
Ich speak.
Chicken.
Insight check.
Fucking Say's getting up and walking away. She's like, nope.
24.
I'm going to go see if they need help in the kitchen. Anywhere but this conversation.
Don't leave me here with this.
Nani's lying. She's not. She just knows Alistair's really gullible.
Felix does not rat her out.
As this conversation is happening around the table, Shepherd Drummond, who's been serving and making sure everyone is fed, is walking past you, Felix, and pauses and kind of pats your shoulder. It is good to see you are all right, Felix.
It's good to see you're all right too. I'm usually all right, but it's nice to be all right also.
And thank you for sending all these people our way.
Oh, I just
Krogan for a second.
followed them. Really, is what happened. I'm following them around. That's what I'm supposed to be doing now. So, I didn't really send them anywhere. I just followed. But you're welcome. Also,
Drummond laughs and pats your shoulder. Nonsense. If you hadn't told them to come here, then we would not have any help against those raiders from the lowlands. Thank you. The traveler walks in mysterious ways. And he pats your shoulder and continues walking around the table.
Felix dives back into their waffle.
Okay.
Jaeger was actually waiting for the others to get fed before he ate. So as long as everyone else has their food, then Jaeger's gonna start.
The good doctor has good manners. All right. As talk continues about waffles and the origins of breakfast stuff, I'm going to call for a quick little break.
Okay.
Let's see about getting back around 10 after.
9:10.
Okie dokie.
All right.
You okay?
Yeah, it feels good. Can you just scratch my back a little lower?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Pam's hair is getting so
I know.
long. I successfully got half of his head wet without him freaking out.
Nice.
It was just working through to the front was the difficult part because he keeps wanting to like dip his head forward and stuff. I'm just like, stop doing that. Just do what I need you to do for like 5 freaking seconds. And he knew what you were doing when you were trying to do it because he kept like specifically watching where my hand was.
Oh, I know. But if I can get him to look up, then
Oh yeah, I know.
he's slightly less traumatized.
He had the poo.
I beg your pardon?
Oliver, he had the poo.
Ah.
If we have everyone, I think we can just go.
Yep, I'm finishing up some details real quick. Okay. All right. Do we have everyone?
I'm here.
I'm here.
I do believe so.
I'm here.
I am here.
I am also here.
Okay. Then we can get back into things with a let's see. So Shepard Drummond had just had a few words for Felix. Everyone is enjoying the waffles. You can see some of the resident travelers, Copper, V, even Cypress to a slight degree, keep looking back at the High Shepherd as though kind of getting a little more impatient. And Drummond doesn't seem to notice until he rounds the table and pauses near where Alistair, Taro, Drogon, and the others are seated. I've decided to accept your offer.
What?
That causes some of the visitors to blink and turn back to him. Drummond smiles and runs a hand through the long beard trailing from his chin.
We are not fighters here. In fact, some of those who live here did so to avoid fighting. But you're right. Things are tense down in the Vale right now. If your tribesmen wish to stay and offer some protection, I see no harm in giving them a place to rest and eat.
Drogon nods and bows his head slightly.
Then so it shall be. In exchange for your hospitality, our spears and axes shall be raised in defense of this place. But hopefully it won't come to that.
And Drummond starts to hobble back off again. Copper and the others seem a bit more relieved at that decision. Vera has stood and gone to follow Say into the kitchen.
Say has found some dishes. She is whipped. Her jacket is like on a chair nearby, but she's doing dishes.
You have had your fill of waffles already?
I hate bugs. I'm thinking about bugs and bugs existing in the world in general.
I think I have just witnessed the strangest negotiating table I have ever sat at. Apparently these orcs will be defending this place in exchange for shelter and food. A fair arrangement.
That might be the most reasonable table I would have ever sat at.
Welcome back. Vera nods and kind of moves over to a table and leans against it, watching you wash the dishes.
Why are you washing the dishes?
Menial labor helps me think about the things that I have done.
Vera cocks her head at that, thinks about it for a moment, and then sighs, taking off her gloves and setting them aside to go and join you.
I see you are also no stranger to kitchen duty.
It was one of the tasks they had us perform back in Temple, when we were not behaving in the manners appropriate to aspiring priestesses.
Same. Well, and before that in conscription.
I am not sure if it is reassuring or indicative of some greater scheme that the Overland and the Underdark have such similar punishments.
Well, I wouldn't be in a hurry to tell the Mereki that they have a lot in common with the Underlanders, but here we are.
Vera snorts a little bit.
You are correct there. I have found that very many elves of the Overland get uncomfortable when they realize just how much we have in common.
Their loss.
Is it?
I think so.
We're just happy you got a fancy coat out of it.
And she laughs a little bit.
Something like that.
We do have incredible fashion sense.
That is true.
And Vera continues to assist you with the dishes. Although she doesn't look very happy about doing it, she does it nonetheless.
Are you also an expert at peeling potatoes?
Vera makes a face at that.
I think if that is where this is going next, I will call my brother to take over for me.
No, I think he's more terrifying than bugs.
Only if you don't know him.
True. I didn't quite give him a chance last time we were up together.
He was judged too soft by the martial academy he was enrolled in. And when he trained with magic, they believe he did not have the stomach necessary to be one of the great mages of our culture. Of our city, rather. Their loss.
Their loss. And our gain.
It amazes me that we misfits have a way of finding each other.
Well, I suppose we all just meet on the edge of society.
And at the top of the world.
The top is kind of an edge.
Vera nods as though this is sage wisdom.
If they are going to make that saddle, I think I did promise to let you shoot my gun.
Oh, I was hoping you would remember that promise.
I believe shooting my gun, and we were going to terrorize a small village.
This is a very small village.
It really is a very small village.
I am not sure how much terrorizing could be done here, though.
They seem to be unflappable.
Yes. I have never known a individual to interrupt a war council to make waffles for his visitors.
Crazy and genius often hold hands, I find.
Speaking of waffles, as we shift momentarily back to the table, Shepherd Drummond has joined everyone and served himself a plate with a single waffle on it that he relishes very slowly. The two orcs they finish their meal very quickly and now look somewhat uncomfortable and unsure what to do with themselves.
Jaeger will just give him a what's up nod before continuing his food.
Ashad catches the nod and nods back at you.
Large recognized large. Alistair since pulled out a notebook and is crunching some numbers. Right, so, subtle project. Even if I burn through some of the other stones that we've gotten hold of, it's still going to take me about 3 days to build.
So not fast enough. Got it.
Yeah, we would be better off building just a regular saddle and making it eagle-shaped. We could transform, we could put it on you, and just ride it. And, to avoid having to build different saddles for each different form you have, I could work on that project bit by bit as we travel.
Elaine looks over between the two of you.
Not fast enough for what?
That is. And he sets his fork down and leans forward, placing his elbows on the table and folding his hands beneath his chin.
I am all for getting this war dealt with as soon as possible. But in a dangerous situation, would it not make sense to take one's time to assess and plan your moves?
You take time to plan your moves and then move at the best speed possible as safely as possible. And I vaguely gesture out towards the rest of the, in the direction of the rest of the Vale. But from inside, it just looks like I'm just gesturing everywhere. I can make a cloud fall over the entire land, and we can fly higher than the cloud, so we can't be seen. And as long as we know where we're going, we can make really good time. And it's a lot of the things we've been trying to do. The military training that we've had, you obviously don't want to allow an enemy to keep building up their strength when you have a chance to weaken it. The faster you can weaken their build up and derail it, not quite the word, but you know what I'm saying, the better.
That is certainly true.
And from what your friends here have noted, this Vale seems to be the marshalling point for their forces. Unless there's another entryway further north. But if this is the only way through, control of the Vale is control of the conflict.
Elaine nods his agreement.
I do agree, but what I mean to say is, right now, the individuals down in the Vale, they don't know that we are here. There is a missing squad of hobgoblins, but perhaps that could be massaged with a little bit of effort. So long as they do not know you are here, why not spend some time to make sure you are fully equipped with the items and plans you need to strike swiftly when you do decide to strike within the Vale? You already can move very quickly. I have no doubt that once we begin to move on their forces, things will move very fast.
And he'll look over at Alistair.
If you think this project would be of great significance to your purpose, 3 days does not sound like very much.
Three days. I look over at Alistair and back to Elaine. We're not just taking this back. We still have to get back to Kier like we promised to help with that. And we still have to handle our sage problem in Aster City.
That makes Elaine's expression sober up and darken a little bit. The sense of joviality that has kind of hung around him fades a little bit.
Yes, certainly that.
We were taken out of the sky by a targeted storm with elementals and other beasts. Something that would not be easily known.
And despite the inability to teleport across the land, Demetrios still found a way to beat me back to Aster City.
Mm-hmm.
Filter.
These are problems, to be sure. To deal with them quickly is ideal. But I know from experience that when one acts too swiftly in the name of a quick resolution, one can make mistakes that could have been avoided had a little bit more time been spent preparing.
Give Elaine a look. I'd like to roll insight.
Roll insight.
I don't know what I'm looking for. Just vibe check, I guess.
Vibe check.
No. I want to see if that's pointed. That's a nat 1.
Alistair, that's some damn good advice you should really consider. Wait. Elaine said it. It can't be good advice. You should completely ignore him.
Squint at Elaine.
Now you're just confused.
He found it on the back of a vulture cookie.
I wouldn't doubt it. Would not doubt it.
I am painfully aware of some things of which you speak. At least how things were me, but we're in a situation. And obviously the tactic would be, if we could have forces attack somewhere to gain sight away from where we want to be. The attack would have to be at the entryway. Because based on what it sounds like it's land-based mages and demons, not flying fuckers. Which
so when they
take
say
care of.
demons,
You say that, Alistair, and Drogon leans forward and rests his arms on the table. They're very big arms.
The Bad Moon tribe has turned away from our gods completely. They mix their blood with that of creatures from the Underrealms. This has led to the creation of many foul beings, such as the Tanaruk. It is a orc that has been changed by the blood of a demon running through its veins. They are dangerous, but there are no flying creatures.
And Drogon nods to you, Taliesin.
The wyverns are the mounts of the Shadarkai. They have been seen mostly patrolling the valley and occasionally flying to the shipyard or the command post in the center of the valley.
So maybe we should say something then. You just took out a hobgoblin crew, and oh man, time is weird. A couple weeks earlier, we had taken down an entire squadron of one of their patrols. Of the Shadar Kai and their wyverns.
Well, you report to command and tell them what happened.
Elaine lets out a sharp laugh.
Oh, that is a devious an idea. I do not know how you would pull it off, but I like the audacity of it.
Well, we do have the ability to disguise ourselves. We don't know the language. Oh, we somewhat don't know the language. It's almost like Elvish.
Quick question, I forgot. Did the Shadar Kai actually speak Undercommon? Like the Drow and the Duergar, or was it a completely different language? Because he did speak, and I had to use like an interpreting language in his list.
I believe it was more similar to Undercommon.
Felix will take this opportunity to note. I can speak any language you need me to.
I was about to just ask about that. I thought somebody could do that.
That's useful. It's very useful. And Felix has a very good poker face.
Insight check.
Sure?
15. Do you really think
Yes.
Felix has a good poker face? Huh.
Felix has a great poker face. Felix hasn't screwed up a lie yet.
Felix looks confused but pleased.
I wonder if it's less that Felix hasn't screwed up a lie so much as they are very convincing at what they say.
Oh, Felix was pretending to be a Mareki soldier for like a solid 2 days. Just sweating bullets the whole time, but it worked.
As you begin to float this plan back and forth, checking back into the kitchen, as Say and Cat, what are you putting? Back in the kitchen, Say and Vera, you've kind of run out of pots and pans to clean, as most of the plates are currently on the table with your companions.
Do you think they're still talking about bugs?
I'm thinking we should have waited until after breakfast to do... No, I'm sure that they have passed on from that. In my experience, whenever someone comes across a topic that chases away their companions, they only pursue it while the companions are there in their presence. At least that's how the boys did it back home.
Fair enough. I just keep thinking about being in the Alaroni lands, and there was a giant bug that would just drop out of the sky at you. Ugh.
What kind of bug? Did you shoot it?
I was told not to.
It seems a wasted opportunity.
I was tempted, sorely tempted though. Some sort of beetle. You'll have to ask.
The
You'll have
beetles
to,
are not so bad.
I have to wait till I'm out of shooting range and then ask Taliesin to show you. He can change into them now.
I am very curious to see how much of a beating they could take. Do you think Taliesin would allow me to test that as well?
Say just gets a grin on her face. I mean that. You could certainly ask.
As she dries off her hand and hands and starts to make her way back into the common room.
Yeah, I'll go too.
And the two of you return to overhear conversation turning towards speaking different languages and audacious plans.
Oh, all right. I've gone like 10 minutes. What are we planning now?
We're still talking about how to get places.
Wow, we are.
I look over at Vera. You know, well, obviously you know Undercommon. I took my head.
Quite obviously, yes.
How do you feel about riding flying beasts?
Vera purses her lips.
What kind of flying beasts?
That's a good question. It could be a giant eagle or a giant owl. It will look like a wyvern.
Why can it not simply be a wyvern? That sounds much more interesting.
Because it is not a normal beast. I cannot make it. There are some limitations of weird magics. That's
clucks her tongue as she sits down at the table.
Perhaps you're not trying hard enough.
I will mention that if Twinkle hears this conversation, she'll pipe up. The same reason a spider's not a bug.
Spiders are not bugs. They're much more pleasant. Thank
As
you.
soon as they get back, the conversation turns to bugs again.
They're actually more closely related to crabs.
Could we just, I don't want to think about the water. Can we please avoid crabs now?
What's wrong with crabs?
They pinch. We're toying with an idea. Going to the command and impersonating some Shatterkai and telling them about the troops that have gone missing. Potentially to shake off any scent we may have left behind.
Right.
Shake off any scent that he kind of thumbs toward the orc battalion.
Okay.
They may have left behind.
We barely got away with that in the Mareki capital, and that was because at least 2 of us were almost, well, 1.5 of us were Mareki, and 3 of us spoke the language. You want to try that again?
Well,
that's why we're toying with it and not committing to it.
We know that we can make ourselves look like Shatterkai with what Konani can do. I point to Felix. Felix can understand and speak back. I point at Vera. If Vera's willing to join, she can speak the Undercommon, which is pretty much what I think I recall the Shatterkai speaking. So that's a thing. That's 2 right there. I wouldn't ask Taro to come, but I'm certain we could think up something else.
What's wrong with Taro?
This level of deception is... Well, it is certainly interesting. I find that when put in a position where I am directly challenged, it is...
And he trails off and purses his lips.
Let us just say my strength is in my mind and not so much in my limbs.
You don't have a poker face either, do you?
I'm not entirely sure what that means. It's a game.
Yeah, in the
game of
is,
bluffing and lying.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, lying. Not very good at lying. Anyway,
I just don't think that this is a wise plan to do again. We barely got away with it the first time.
Well, either way, then, a hobgoblin party is not going to be reporting back shortly, and that will be the second party that they have lost within a few weeks around the Vale.
I'll look to Drogon. How often do these parties and patrols go missing?
That is difficult to say, but it is not uncommon for a raiding party to take a long time returning back to their command. Typically, a party will raid until they are satisfied they have taken everything of value from their targets. Considering that this particular party knew that there were many people here, but only managed to secure a handful, it is not unreasonable for those who took the prisoners back to their wherever they wish to send them to think that the squad is still performing raids in the mountains.
okay. All right.
Eventually, those that took the prisoners away will return to where they last left their camp, and that is when they will discover the missing party.
They're traveling on foot, so that could be days.
Right, I'm just not convinced that we need to go in disguise, risking many of our high-ranking, for lack of a better word, captains, to just tell them that their people are going to be late for dinner.
No news might be good news.
I shrug. I was just working with additional ideas that were more than just mine. So.
Well, if we're floating multiple ideas on the table, I was thinking it would be beneficial for, like I said, for something to happen at the entryway. Not a full-on assault, but enough of a kerfuffle to cause the command center to send soldiers, right? To get them up in a tiff. We all can't travel very, very quickly. But if we were to travel through the woods and split up, and by us, I mean he gestures toward Valor's party and toward the sages. If we led our way down the mountains and broke up somewhere near that river delta and split off in two different directions, I think the sages could possibly contend with those demon summoners. Not a full-on assault, not to take it, but to cause them trouble.
Are you suggesting that we split our party?
Well, it's gone really well so far.
We could. I'm just saying we could split into smaller raiding parties and do what they're doing to us and make it look like we have a larger force than we perhaps do by harrying all of their supply lines.
I do like the sound of that.
That sounds like it could be fun.
They'd be sending soldiers everywhere. They'd be attacking shadows.
Especially if they're more reactive than perhaps we anticipated. Also, if we can do a little bit of magic, remember the lightning and all of that shit that we did at the Murky camp? We maybe could just try and erode their morale a little bit. We have Skywrite, we have illusion magic, and we have him. I'll point at Elaine.
He is pretty spooky. Mr. Drogon, sir, are your hobgob friendos, not friendos, marshalmen, are they superstitious?
Drogon rubs his chin and considers that.
Superstitious.
afraid of magic, afraid of spirits.
They are distrustful of such things. They are very brave, however. We do not care very much for their ways, but we respect their bravery.
Oh, well, brave and maybe a little stupid.
So, how would you break their morale?
Ashad actually starts chuckling at that.
The hobgoblins are. They are very strict with their thinking. They fight in straight lines. When faced with a hobgoblin raiding party, you give them the opportunity to line up, and then you start harrowing their sides.
So,
You think they are marshaling to fight an army, and you send in your raiders.
so Molaroni tactics, pit traps, and harrying the lines and guerrilla ambushes.
They can be easily lured and tricked into thinking an attack is coming from the west when it is coming from the east. So yes, traps, ambushes, they are very effective against them. This thing that you spoke of, this magic and superstition, it might find more use against the goblin kind. I doubt you would face any of their warriors, but when enough of them gather, they can be surprisingly cunning.
I am itching to blow up one of their balloons, I will not lie. I have a new gun and everything.
All the better if you can make it seem like an act of God.
All the better.
Well, you know I can call lightning.
I gave up all of my religious talents, so
Vera starts buffing her fingers and snapping and creating sparks unobtrusively on her seat.
she could do magic.
This is not magic, it is skill.
Looks like magic.
It does look like magic.
Is she just literally like? Am I smart enough to understand that she's just building up a static charge and discharging her static?
No, this
She wears
is
fuzzy slippers.
This is very she is visibly conjuring little sparks of electricity.
Okay.
You do recall from the time in the Undermountain that she does have the ability to summon and discharge lightning in various ways. It's a byproduct of her particular style of fighting.
Right, so, raiding parties. We need to scout supply lines, figure out what their lines are, and then start causing chaos.
And I believe there was mention of speaking to a dragon.
Oh, right. Speaking to a dragon, potentially bringing sheep, goats, sheep to a dragon.
Shepherd Drummond from the head of the table perks up.
Oh, are you planning a visit to Ferrovax?
Potentially. With Felix's blessing, I think he tolerates Felix the most.
He looks over to Felix and chuckles.
He does have a soft spot for you. Be sure to give the old lizard my regards. Don't call him that. Not to his face.
Alright, so we have a party that's going to go see Pharaohbacks, and then I think some of us should go scout perhaps the mine.
Taro will lean forward to inspect the map.
The mine is some ways away, but I believe you have ways of traveling fast, yes?
Involves half of us turning into like eagles and shit, but yes.
I think that is a good idea. The more information we can gather about this place, the better our plans will be to attack these points of interest.
I suppose that leaves the question as to when we plan to begin. Rest for now, and first on, we split up.
Well, it's not even lunch yet.
You will all be staying for lunch, yes? You've come so very far.
We just had breakfast.
Literally just ate.
I want
I
lunch.
appreciate the thought, of course,
How?
but
How do you want lunch?
Because
Konami
I
is
did not
empty.
eat a berry.
Konami has an empty leg. We all know this.
Your legs are very full.
This
My
was
legs are
breakfast. We are talking about lunch. It is an entirely different thing.
Okay, right.
We're not in a rush. Let's take the day, work on our various projects, take a second to breathe, because I don't think we've breathed since we left Thornwall.
That sounds about right. We have been pretty much running and flying and running since.
That reminds me, I would very much like to hear about these exploits that you have all been up to.
It's messy.
I'll be happy to tell you. I assume this place has some sort of drinking situation.
I hold up my elven mead that I had taken a sip from earlier, take another sip, and then keep
I
holding
mean,
on to it.
it's still breakfast, but alright.
Vera visibly rolls her eyes.
But I'll read you in, at least. Perhaps when I'm showing you my gun. My new gun.
A story and a gun. This sounds like a fine way to spend the afternoon.
Keeper Copper is kind of rubbing his chin.
Well, we don't have much in the way of taverns, but some of us do make our own drinks here and there.
Oh, do you have a distillery?
No, nothing quite so fancy.
Copper bathtub, maybe?
Some things a little more sophisticated.
Even better.
I mean, if you want a distillery, I'm sure we can get one built for you.
Well, it might be useful for, depending on how much time we spend here, some places to set up shop and perhaps do some prep work might be useful. That said, I happened to notice there were a lot of broken gates and doors, and your carpenter is not here. Is there anyone who can put that back together? Give you some semblance of protection. I mean, protection in the form of wood, not, muscle.
Oh, we have a few woodworkers among us. Our supplies might be a little low, but there's some trees in the lower ravines. Master Drogan, perhaps you might be able to assist us in bringing some fresh lumber up. When your people are large, strapping fellows.
Drogan just kind of blinks a little bit.
We would be happy to assist.
Insight check?
Sure.
I want to roll insight too.
Go for it.
He's hesitant.
So 15.
15.
$21.
All right. It's not a difficult read in this circumstance. It looks like Drogon was more confused by Shepard Drummond's choice of phrasing rather than anything else. It does look like he is willing to assist. That's earnest.
Ah. Weird communication issues. Kanani relates to that.
What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people?
Well, I think this was a very productive council meeting.
Elaine says as he kind of leans back and claps his hands together.
Right, so we're taking the day off, and everyone is to get some rest and relaxation, however they see fit.
That seems like a plan. That seems like the plan. Right.
And perhaps this evening or tomorrow morning we do some significant planning and come back a little refreshed and a little less burnt out.
Master nods.
All right. As breakfast starts to wind down, Shepard Drummond will begin gathering plates. V and Cypress and Copper assist them. V and Cypress have kept fairly quiet during most of the conversation. It seems like they're very much listening and seeing what the general sense of things are going to be, considering their investment in the rescuing the prisoners that were taken from the refuge. They chatter to themselves as they return the dishes to the kitchen and begin cleaning everything up. For those of you with high perceptions or those who wish to kind of eavesdrop on them, it seems like the travelers here at the refuge are grateful for all the assistance, and more than one of them are remarking on how just the strange coincidence that so many of these people are gathering here right when their place was raided. And you hear that traveler works in mysterious ways comment come up time and again. With some decisions made, Drogon and Ashad will rise and head out to speak with their tribe and begin to organize the Windwalkers in a more defined pattern to protect the village. So they will be focused more on spreading out and lending aid where they can and establishing patrols for the group. The sages and Vera, meanwhile, are largely left to their own devices and are more or less available to be used at the party's disposal.
I promised Vera I was going to show her a gun or two. So I think we're going to find a place to shoot, and I will tell her about what the fuck happened in Illyria.
Vera does point out that just outside the refuge there are the lowland, the ravines and the fields where they're less likely to hit anyone. so she is more than willing to take a walk to play with guns and talk about, get caught up on everything that's happened to you recently.
Sounds like a plan.
Taro will politely excuse himself from the table and see to checking on his guards outside, guarding the wall into the center of the village here. He very much seems like one who is accustomed to kind of being on his own, kind of spending time alone, and given his type of magic, it's easy to see why most people avoid him. But he doesn't seem too bothered by it. Elaine will go and probably see to his horse. Awkwardly. Anyone who watches him for longer than about 30 seconds will realize he is not a horse person. So for everyone else, the day is pretty much yours to do with as you please. With the amount of options opening up before you, I would like to know if the party would actually like to end game here and start to plot out the events that you'd like to pursue throughout the day.
I think that's a fair bet.
Yep.
I think most of us are starting to really peter out.
It's been a week. It's been a month. It's been a year.
Oh, yeah, it's been something.
It's only March.
It's been a year of these 3 months. Yeah, so the party has settled in the refuge, got caught up on current affairs, learned some targets of interest in the Vale, and have started to make plans regarding what they wish to do in taking this war kind of back to Ruin's doorstep. Perhaps with a dragon in tow.
Perhaps.
All right, so we will end game here. Forum plays are open and available to pursue things between games. Feel free to discuss in our meta chat what kind of plans you'd like to do, any ideas you have on how you'd like to spend the rest of the day. And we will catch up with everyone on the next game day.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Anyway, thank you for game.
Thank you all for games. Since
Thank
it's
you.
still relatively early, I think I'm going to hang around and shoot the shit and play some games.
Okay, I want to double check
Yeah, I'm not
something.
ready for bed quite yet, so I'll
Our
probably
next
poke
game
your
is
names.
in 2 weeks.
You're not broadcasting.
I want to double check something though. Apparently I wasn't. I forgot I was on push stuff. First, thank you. Thank you for game. And next is just to make sure that we're not be like playing jokes on people. Game is in 2 weeks, right?
That is the next one's April 1st. Yes, no.
Oh no, April 1st in the fucking refuge. April 1st in the refuge? No!
I mean, to be fair, it's not April 1st in games.
I should have everyone come up with a trick you'd like to play on some other member of the party and just consolidate all the ideas.
So instead of actually playing game on April 1st, we just watch Mish talk as Elaine with Bobblesnoggins and have a slice of life his day and the bullshit that he does because he is a fool.
It's a round robin where actually every player has to narrate a segment of that day.
Ooh, I like that.
Something terrible happens to him every hour or so.
You know what? That has reminded me. I keep getting distracted, but I've been meaning to raise this to the group for a while. Heather, way back when you told me about the monologue tokens.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a fascinating idea. I spoke briefly with Cece about it. I wanted to bring it up to the group, but I kept on getting distracted by life in general.
I vaguely remember you telling me about monologue tokens, but
so
repeat yourself.
Heather and Hannah can correct me since they both have more experience with it, but I believe the idea was that every game, everyone would have access to a monologue token that they can essentially cash in to get a insight into what someone, be it a player character or an NPC, is thinking or feeling in a given moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's only PC knowledge, so it's not something your character would know, but like if everyone, like, I know Hannah might be desperately interested in what the fuck is going through, like, Say's brain as Vera comes back to do dishes. So that she you know, they might play a monologue token on that in order to, like, get, like, a little peek inside of Say's brain as what the hell is going on right in her brain.
Yeah,
right
so
then.
it sounds like something that it's not necessarily a game mechanic. It doesn't add to anything inside the game world, but it fleshes things out for the players who might be interested in what's going on.
It's fun little metagame knowledge.
Yeah.
And we're the type of group that don't really metagame. Like, I love metagame knowledge, but I love making my character suffer. So, like, if it's something for well, I know Rob does too. So, like, for example, if, I don't know, Rob wanted to know something about Elaine that Alistair
I was about to say,
doesn't know.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the sort of thing you would play a monologue token on.
Exactly. Like, in this moment, what does that look that Elaine gives Alistair? What's that mean? What's going through his head right now?
Like, Alistair rolled a nat 1, but Rob could have used a monologue token to find out what the fuck's going on out of character.
Yeah.
I think I know what's going on with the character, but maybe a token would have been helpful.
A token is like confirmation. If you have a hunch and you're like, is this NPC doing what I think they're doing? I'm going to use my token.
And it's not like, even though they're called monologue tokens, it doesn't strike me that these are things that'll eat up a lot of game time. It's just a...
Yeah, they tend to be like, I would say like 10 to 30 seconds ramble.
Yeah, just a quick little meta insight. What do you guys think? Does it sound interesting?
It feels like the equivalent of, as a DM, saying, what's going on in your character's head?
Literally, exactly is, except you're giving the power to the players to do it
to the players, yeah.
each other and also to you as an NPC.
It's interesting.
Before everyone uses the tokens on my NPCs, yes, you can use it on other players.
I do find that, on the one hand, it's like instant gratification, you know what's happening. On the other, I feel like it could spoil a potentially dramatic reveal down the line.
I think there is an option, though, if we did implement that. If it's something the DM or the other player doesn't think it should be common knowledge. Like, I have a few things with Kanane that I've only shared with, like, Rob and DM, but...
I think there's plenty of room to allow for... Anything that's too spoilery can just be said, like, well, this is kind of spoilery, but I think you can talk around it, because we all kind of gush about our characters and our characters' headspaces in various places. This is a way to bring some of that into game.
Yeah, I've only ever seen it used for fluff. Like, Coasties 100% use it for fluff. It's all like, what is Bones thinking as she goes into, like, this ballroom, or what is, Salda thinking, or whatever. It's usually, like, fluff nonsense, and it's great. It adds a lot of flavor to the game.
I'm always willing to try something once.
No, it's like watching a TV show or a movie. You, as the observer, know something, but the characters, the actors, are playing it out that they don't know these things,
Right.
Don't go through that door.
basically.
But
Watch
yeah,
your ship.
I'm intrigued by it. I'd like to give it a shot if no one has any strong opinions against it. And it's something that can be tweaked or discarded or embraced as we find out more about how it works and play with it.
Everyone uses their tokens on Elaine.
I was about to say, like, the first time this gets implemented, like, that's going to be the game. It's Elaine's day.
Nope, because I have a different direction that I want to know shit about.
Oh, Say has a
crush.
Say has a whole ass
Say
crush.
wants to know if Vera's in lesbians with her.
Yes, very much.
You know, the L word. Lesbians?
She's like, is this a date? I feel like this might be a date. Maybe it's a date. I
It's a-
hope it's a date.
It's a pre-date.
You know, if Say just asked Konane, hey, do you think Vera likes me? Konane will just be like, well, men disappoint her. From the conversation that they had in the Underdark.
Yeah, but she's a drow. That's par for the course.
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, but oh my god, that is so 100% correct.
Love it.
Elaine's an idiot. Taro's gentle. Well, that's not really a disappointment, just a statement on her brother.
No, the thing that happened, because when Konane and Vera had a girl-to-girl talk with each other, Konane was just like, you know, have you been interested in anybody? And Vera was just like, yeah, you know what? Anybody who's been interested in me has called me exotic, and I don't like being called that.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think I played that up.
Yep. Vera is definitely a strong sort of woman who is so fucking tired of the trope of men, because that's all she deals with, is man tropes.
Oh man.
Exactly.
So I just want to point out that the croaker out in the front lawn, like 400 feet away, is still going strong.
He's
He is
really
so
horny.